Guys, this is Sai Madhav. Today we will deal with professional ethics. Okay, we will be covering this chapter in two parts. Today is part 1. This is very important not only from the marks perspective but also after you complete your chartered accountancy, this will play a major role. Okay, here the act is the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. In this chapter, we will be seeing various schedules. All of these schedules are from the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. Okay, the weightage is around 20 marks for your exams. Now, professional ethics. First of all, what is meant by ethics? Ethics are the moral principles which govern a person's behavior, how you should behave. Okay, that is known as ethics. There are two types of ethics: personal ethics and professional ethics. Personal ethics is what we all do in a personal life, what we have to do, and professional ethics is behavior expected for professionals. Okay, professional people, that is, we are dealing with chartered accountants here. So, how chartered accountants should behave is dealt in professional ethics. See, doctor example. A doctor comes across a patient. He's a cancer patient and he has not more days to live. Okay, but the doctor cannot disclose to the patient that you will not live for many days. So what we will do? He will tell to someone close to the family of the patient to take care of the patient. If you see, this is example of professional ethics, because actually you have to disclose the truth, but you are not disclosing the truth. You are hiding some facts from the patient, because this is professional ethics for a doctor. In the same way, lawyer versus CA. Example, see, if a lawyer comes across a case, his client has defaulted, but should not disclose to the court. He has to fight for the client. That is the duty of a lawyer. Whereas in a CA, if a CA comes across a default, he should report to the authorities. Right? Confidentiality also varies from different professions. For lawyer, it is one thing, and for CA, it is another thing. So professional ethics is very important. Why? Why should we follow professional ethics? To ensure and uphold credibility of chartered accountants. Credibility in society, we have much value. Why we have much value? It is due to professional ethics only. So chartered accountants should follow this to ensure and uphold credibility of our profession. Now, membership. After completion of CA, we should apply to council for membership. After we apply, the council will verify and they will enter our name in the register. Then we will get a certificate of membership. From that day, we will be known as member, right? Members are of two types: associate member and fellow member. Normally, we will call as ACA and FCA. Associate member, any person on being entered in register of members. Once you get into register of members, you will be known as ACA. Now, who is a fellow member? Who has been ACA for 5 years will be called as FCA. Understood? Now, disabilities for membership. Section 8. These persons cannot apply for membership, or they want membership. Who are these persons? Less than 21 years of age. So you have to complete 21 years of age to apply for membership. Persons of unsound mind, right? Undischarged insolvent and discharged insolvent. Undischarged means you have applied for insolvency, but the certificate did not come. It is still in process. Then it is known as undischarged. Discharged means the court has declared you as insolvent. Then it is known as discharged insolvent. Both of these cases. And convicted by court involving moral turpitude. For any moral wrong actions you have done, the court has convicted you. Then you cannot apply for membership. However, central government can remove disability. If you apply for central government, the central government can remove this one, only this thing. Then you can apply. Removed from membership, guilty of professional or other misconduct. Previously you have removed once, then you cannot apply again. Okay. Now, Members deemed to be in practice. See, for practice, you have to be a member and you have to get a certificate of practice. Then only you can practice generally. But these members will be deemed to be in practice, even if they are not practicing. Who are these? Practices in accountancy, auditing or verification of financial transactions, books, accounts, or records are holds to public as an accountant. First one, you are practicing accountancy. Then you are deemed to be in practice. Or you are appearing to public as an accountant. Then also renders professional services or assistance about accounting, procedure or recording presentation of financial data. If you give any professional services regarding accounting or recording presentation, etc., then also you will be deemed to be as a member in practice. Such other services to be rendered by CA in practice. Whatever services CA in practice can provide, if you are providing any of those, then you will be automatically deemed to be in practice. Okay. Now, removal of name from registrar. We have seen in section 8 disabilities, right? And we also seen how to apply for membership. Now, removal of name in section 20. When can your name be removed? Dead. That means if the member is dead, then you can remove. Request received for removal. The member himself has applied to remove the name from the register. Then also you can remove. Fee is not paid. Okay. Every year you have to pay some fees to hold your membership in your register. If the fees is not paid also, the name will be removed. Disability under section 8. We have seen disabilities, right? If you incur any disability, attract any disability, then also your name will be removed from the register. No. Penalty for falsely claiming to be a member. Okay, section 24. What are the sections, guys? The sections are from the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. Any person not being a member of the institute represents as a member or uses designation chartered accountant. That means you are not a member, but you are representing yourself as a member, or you are using CA as your designation. Member not having COP represents he is in practice or practices. You already know that to practice he should have a COP, but without having COP, whether you are practicing, okay, or you are telling that you are in practice, representing yourself as in practice, then also you are falsely claiming to be a member and you will attract some penalties. What are these? First, conviction. First time if you are convicted, 1,000 rupees fine. Subsequent conviction, again and again you are repeating the same mistake, then 5,000 rupees fine or 6 months imprisonment or both of these. Okay, first time 1,000, subsequent 5,000 or 6 months or both. Okay, you may get a thought that these fines are very very less. Of course these are less, but you should also remember that when you are representing yourself as a member, actually you are not, then you are also cheating the people. So CPC, civil procedure, will also apply. So as per those also, cheating provisions will apply and you have to follow those also. So this is just an extra thing here. COP, suspended or removed from membership, should not appear under any authorities or bodies for representation. See, once your COP is removed from membership or it is suspended, then you cannot appear before any bodies or authorities for representation. For example, you cannot appear for income tax hearing or GST authorities hearing, because they all know you as a chartered accountant. Okay, so when you are suspended or removed, you cannot represent as chartered accountant there. If you go, then it will be deemed as guilty of professional misconduct. So you should not appear once your COP is removed or suspended. No designations. For a member in practice, he can use chartered accountant as a term. Okay, he cannot use any other designation. Suppose Mr. A, he is a CA and he is also a cost accountant. Okay, he should use only chartered accountant before his name. Okay, he should not call himself as a cost accountant. He can use the words as AICWA. Okay, after his names he can put these words AICWA, because this is not a designation, this is a qualification, right? Qualification he can put as many as qualifications he want, but designation only chartered accountant. Corporate lawyer he should not use, CPA he should not use. And one more example, you cannot call yourself as compulatory, but you can put the words as CS after your name. For persons not in practice, who are not practicing, they can use a CA as prefix. Okay, CAA, CAB, whatever it is. Okay, this is the use of designation chartered accountant. Now, disciplinary procedure. This is not important, just for an idea. There are two schedules, you will deal with them. If you incur any professional misconduct, then disciplinary procedure will be performed on you. First, it will be disciplinary directorate. Okay, first of all, it will go to this disciplinary directorate. If your misconduct falls in schedule 1, it will go to board of discipline. If your misconduct falls in schedule 2 or both of the schedules, then it will go to disciplinary committee. Schedule 1 is less serious. Schedule 2 is somewhat more serious than schedule 1, right? This is just for an idea I have given this. Now, before starting with the schedules, what are the fundamental principles as per Code of Ethics of ICAI? You have already studied in CA Inter or IPCC. Fundamental principles: integrity. You should be honest and straightforward. Objectivity. You should be unbiased. There should not be any conflict. Okay. Professional competence and due care. Professional competence means you should be updated with latest developments. For example, there is Ind AS, GST. You should be updated with the knowledge. Even if you have passed many years ago, you should be updated with the current developments. Due care. That means you should not be negligent. You should be acting diligently. And the most important one, confidentiality. Should not disclose the information of clients to third parties, because you are auditing the financial statements. That is, the most valuable things. Okay, you cannot disclose to all others. It is most sensitive things there. Legal duty to disclose. Where there is legal duty, you can disclose. If you want to disclose to any other parties, you should take the prior permission of client. Professional behavior. Okay, you should behave in such a way that you should not bring any discredit to profession, to chartered accountancy. Now, threats involved in compliance. When you are performing your duties, some things may cause you threats so that you cannot perform your duty effectively. What are those threats? There are 5 types. Self-interest threats. Okay, when you are interested in the client, for example, you have invested in the client or you have purchased shares of the clients, then you are self-interested, then you cannot perform your duties well. That is self-interest threats. Second one is self-review threats. You are reviewing your own work. For example, you have prepared the financial statements and you are auditing them. Then it is self-review threats. You are reviewing your own work. You cannot give correct opinion there. Advocacy threats. For example, you are the advocate of the client. Okay, you cannot be advocate and see at the same time, because it will be lack of independence there. Familiarity threats. Suppose the board of director is your relative, okay, or a KMP, key manager person is your relative. So that is familiarity threats. Intimidation threats. The client is intimidating you. He is forcing you to give an opinion, or he is forcing that he will cut the fees, or he will remove you. He is intimidating you. It is known as intimidating threats. So these 5 threats, you have to avoid these 5 threats. That means you have to take action on these 5 threats. Now, maintenance of branch office by a CA. Okay, what is a office? Definition says place where name board is fixed or place mentioned in letterhead or any other documents as a place of business. One, you have a name board, right? Chartered accountant's firm name or your name. The name board where the it is fixed, that place or any place mentioned in letterhead, the letterhead, any place which is mentioned or any other document as a place of business, then it will be known as office. Can you have multiple offices? Yes. One CA can have multiple offices. If more than one office, separate charge of a member. That means there should be a separate member for each office to take care of that office. He should be a partner or a paid assistant full time. Okay, separate member means he should also be a chartered accountant and he should also be a member. He should be partner or a paid assistant who is working full time. Okay, not required if offices are in same accommodation. Suppose there is one building. On one floor you have one office and on the other floor you have other office. So two offices are in same building. Then you cannot have a separate member. You need not have separate member. You can manage those two. However, active association required, that is greater than 182 days. Even if separate member is given charge, you have to actively associate with that office. You have to be present more than 182 days in that office. Intimation to council. When you have multiple offices, you have to intimate the council regarding the office's address and facts. Okay. Exemptions. What are the exemptions? You need not have a separate charge of a member when it is a temporary office. It is known as hill area exemption. For 3 months, you can open an office other than your head office for 3 months, which is temporary. Then you need not take any permission or you need not have a separate charge. Second office exemption. So you can have multiple offices, right? But second office, there is an exemption. This is very important. See, you can have second office in the same premises, same city, 50 kilometers from municipal limits of city of first office, that is head office. From 50 minutes of municipal limits up to 50 kilometers, you can have a second office. Then you need not have a separate charge of a member. Let's take an example and see here. There is city A and city B. This circle is the municipal limits. Okay. Head office is in city A. From the head office, the municipal limit of city is 15 kilometers. There is city B, which is 35 kilometers from city A. In city B, there is a branch office, which is 10 kilometers from the municipal limits of city B. So the effective kilometers for this clause will be 35 plus 10. That is 35 plus 10, 45 kilometers. This area from head office to municipal limits won't be counted. Okay, you will count only from limits to your office here. Okay, please remember this. This is very important. Now, misconduct. Professional misconduct is dealt in two schedules. First schedule and second schedule. First schedule, as we discussed, is less serious. Okay, second schedule is more of serious nature. So the penalty will be more in second schedule. The first schedule is somewhat less. These schedules are divided into various parts. First schedule has 4 parts, second schedule has 3 parts. Part 1 applies to members in practice. Part 2, members in service. Service means who are doing job. Part 3, members generally. That is to all members. Part 4, other misconduct. Okay. So these three is professional misconduct. This is other misconduct. In this video, we will discuss in first schedule. The next video, we will go for second schedule. Remember, there are 4 parts in first schedule. Part 1 for practice, Part 2 for service, Part 3 members generally, Part 4 other misconduct. At the end of the video, we will also see how to remember the clause names with numbers. Okay. The first schedule, Part 1. Part 1 applies to members in practice. A chartered accountant is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he allows any person to practice in his own name as a CA unless such person is also a CA in practice and is in partnership with or employed. That means when you have taken any assignment, okay, you should work on that. Okay, you should practice your own firm name with your own firm name. You cannot give it to any other people. You can give only if he is also a CA and he is also in practice. Okay, and he is in partnership with you. Okay, that is, you remember the word name allows any person to practice in his own name because you are giving name that should not be given. Person, if not a CA, you should not give. No. If a CA and not in practice, no. If he is a CA, he is in practice and he is also your partner, yes. If he is employee, yes. If any others, no. That means he should be a CA in practice and he should be a partner or an employee. Then only you can allow him to work from your name. This is clause 1. Clause 2. Whenever you see clause in this part, you apply the words here. A chartered accountant is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he pays or allows or agrees to pay or allow directly or indirectly any share, commission or brokerage in the fees or profits. That means, see, you take an example. You entered into an agreement with some ad agency to give ads. If you get any work, you will pay 10% of the fees you have received. Okay, that is agrees to pay or allow directly or indirectly any share, commission or brokerage in the fees or profits. You are giving a part share of commission in your fees or profits. You cannot do that. You will be guilty of professional misconduct as per clause 2 part 1 schedule 1 to any person other than a member of the institute or a partner, retired partner or legal representative or deceased partner, a member of any other professional body. Okay, that means suppose if there are 3 CAs, those 3 CAs can enter into agreement to share the profits. No problem. Partner also no problem. Legal representative, retired partner, member of other professional body or persons having such qualification as prescribed. That means there are 3 people. One is CA, one is CMA, one is CS. These 3 people also can enter into a partnership by sharing fees or sharing profits. Okay. Then there is no professional misconduct. But with other people, you cannot enter. This is clause 2. Now, in the clause 2, there is a very important part, that is sale or transfer of goodwill. Suppose there is a CA, he has established a firm before 40 years. He's got a lot of reputation and goodwill. Now, he has died. Okay. But that firm name is more valuable. So, the legal representative of that firm can sell the goodwill. That means he can sell the use of the name of the firm to other persons. That is the sale or transfer of goodwill. If death of proprietor on or after 38 1998, after 38 1998, if the death has occurred, sale to be completed within 1 year. Within 1 year, the sale has to be completed. And name shall be kept for 1 year from the date of death. From the date of death, 1 year, the name shall be kept in the books. So within 1 year, if you complete the sale, your name will be entered into the register as a proprietor of the firm. Right? If sale or transfer of goodwill completed on or after 1938 1998, sorry, death after 1998 plus dispute of legal heir. See, suppose there are 3 children for that deceased member. So these 3 children are fighting for the right on the name. Then you have to intimate the dispute within 1 year to the council. Within 1 year of death, you have to intimate to the council. Name shall be kept for 1 year from the date of settlement of dispute. If you have gone for court, the court will give a judgment. From the day of judgment, from the day of settlement of dispute, for 1 year the name shall be kept. Okay, so within that 1 year you can have that name registered with. Death on or before 29/8/1998. If before 29/8/1998 if death has occurred, then you have to get permission before 28/8/1999. That is 1 year. Okay. Clause 3 accepts or agrees to accept any part of the profits of a person who is not a member of the institute. Exception same as clause 2. See, in clause 2 you have said that you cannot share the profits with others. The clause 3 is completely opposite to that one. You cannot receive any profits from others. Of course, right? If you cannot share, you cannot also receive. This is clause 3. Exceptions are same. Member you can share, other qualifications, okay, CMA, CS, etc. Those persons you can share. Clause 4 enters into partnership in or outside India with any person other than a CA or member of other professional bodies or whose qualifications are recognized by the CG or the council. See, you have entered into partnership. You cannot enter with other people. Exceptions are CA. You can enter a partnership with the CA. Two CAs can enter into partnership and work together. Or member of other professional bodies, CMA, CS, etc. You can agree and enter into a partnership. Okay, but for other people who are not these people, you cannot enter into a partnership. That is clause 4. Clause 5 secures any professional business through the services of a person who is not an employee or a partner by any means not open to CA. See, did you see anywhere regarding ads of a CA firm? No, you won't see anywhere because this is the reason. You cannot secure any professional business through the services of other persons who is not an employee or partner. You cannot appoint someone to get business for you. You cannot appoint any ad agency to get business for you. Okay, by any means not open to CA. All forms of canvassing is unethical. Canvassing, you cannot promote your firm name. Okay, you can get work only by reputation. You should get by reputation only. Okay, so your client should, by mouth publicity, should get you more clients by reputation, not by giving ads or unethical ways. This is clause 5. Clause 6, a chartered accountant will be to be professional misconduct if he solicits clients or professional work directly or indirectly. Solicits clients, that means you are getting clients in a unfair way by circular, advertisements, personal communication, interview, other means. You cannot give any ads in newspapers or television channels, etc. regarding your firm. Okay, personal communication, you cannot call someone and say regarding your firm. Interview, you cannot give your interviews regarding your firm name, any other means. Okay, this is soliciting clients or professional work directly or indirectly. You cannot do these things. This clause is very important, guys. See, can you request a work from other CA? You can write to other chartered accountants regarding work, that if you get any work, please inform me, please share your work, like that you can write. Okay, responding to tenders, invitations or inquiries. Okay, there is a tender in the newspaper, can you respond to it? Yes, you can respond, but if it is exclusively reserved for chartered accountants, only CS should perform, then you cannot respond. However, if minimum fees is given, if minimum fees is 50,000 for example, if there is any minimum fees quoted in the tender, then you can respond. Or if it is open to other professions also, that means if the tender is open to CA, CMA, CS, etc. for other professions also, then you can respond. Or there should be minimum fees, then only you can respond. Otherwise you can't. Request to panels. See, there are various panels having the names of chartered accountants. Whenever a work is given, someone will be selected from those panel only. So you can request to those panels to add your name in that panel. Can you request? Yes, you can request. But roving inquiries, that means continuous inquiries to add, continuous, uh, request cannot be made. Firm name in book or article. The chartered accountant has published a book or article. Firm name cannot be given. His own personal name can be given, but firm details should not be given. It will be called as professional misconduct if he is given. Members should not accept the original professional work emanating from a client introduced by other member. Suppose you are a CA, you are practicing, you have a friend. Now your friend has one client. Your friend introduced that client to you. After a few days, that client approached you directly for some work. Then you should not accept that work. You should first ask the client to come through that member only, your friend only. Okay? Because that is professional ethics. When someone has introduced you first, later also he should only introduce you. He should only bring him. Okay? You cannot take directly. You ask the client to come through other member. It is your duty to ask the client. In public interviews, see, can public interviews be given by chartered accountants? Yes, they can be given. But firm name should not be disclosed anywhere in public interviews. Website guidelines, very, very important. Okay. CA firms or CS, okay, who are practicing can have websites, their own websites. Is there any restriction on colors? There is no restriction. You can use any colors you want. But the website should be on pull request but not on push request. What is this? When you search something for in Google, you will get many advertisements, right? That is push request. That means the Google is pushing you some ads. Okay, these firm names should be on pull request. So you should type that firm name and you should open that particular link. Then only you will be accessed. That is pull request. Push request should not be given. Advertisement should not be given. Name of clients and fees charged. They should not be given. Okay. Advertisement banners. For example, you will see Amazon banners, right? Amazon, Flipkart banners in various websites. Banners should not be given. Link to website of ICAI, government departments or regulatory authorities. In your website, you can provide the link to various ICAI branches, regional councils or government departments, GST authorities. You can provide the particular links. No problem. Can name of the firm be different from website address? Yes, it can be different. Okay. For example, your firm name is XYZ Chartered Accountants. Your website name is xyz.com. Okay, or xyzs.com, something like that. It should be as near as possible, but if it is different also, there is not any problem. This is very important. Can the member's passport size photo be displayed on the website? Yes, only passport size photo is allowed. Banner is not allowed. Year of establishment, this is also very important. Can website have the year of establishment of the firm? Yes. However, it should be specific pull request. Okay, you should search for that and you should click there regarding year of establishment. Then only you will get the answer. Okay, it should not be displayed everywhere. Okay, this is all about clause 6. This is very important. Now let's go to clause 7. Advertisement. A chartered accountant or a member in practice will be deemed to be professional misconduct if he advertises his professional attainments or uses any designation or expression other than chartered accountant on professional documents, visiting cards, letterheads, or signboards. That means when you are a CA, you should only use designation as chartered accountant. You should not use any other designation. Okay. For example, if you are MP or MLA, you can't use MP or MLA before your name when you are doing the work of chartered accountant. Okay. unless degree of university issued by law in India or recognized by CG or council. Unless it is recognized, you cannot use it. If it is recognized, you can use. Write up is allowed. See, write up is nothing but you can take example of prospectus. For a company, in prospectus, it will write everything, right? Details. In the same way, a write up means you are writing various achievements, okay, various works offered by your firm, so that the people can know about your firm. That is known as write up. In the write up, you can mention everything, no problem. Appearance in television. Can I see a appear in television? Yes, he can appear. But name of the firm or services provided should not be mentioned anywhere. Okay. If it is mentioned, then you will be guilty of professional misconduct. Undesirable publicity should not be given anywhere. Okay. If CA is a director of a company, no firm name to be given in prospectus. Very important. If you are also director, the firm name should not be given in the prospectus. Date of establishment should not be given anywhere except on website, as we have discussed earlier. So name of website should be allowed only on website. That also specific pull request, but not anywhere. MP, MLA, etc. should not be used before your name. Okay. Suppose a CA is also a management consultant. You should use the words only chartered accountant, but not management consultant, because you cannot use any other designation. Right? This is clause 7. Now we are going to clause 8. Accepts the position of auditor previously held by another chartered accountant without first communicating with him in writing. See, previously one CA has done the audit. Now you are appointed. So you should not accept the audit before communicating to him. That means before accepting, you should first communicate to the auditor and then accept. Why? Because it is professional courtesy. It is your duty as a professional. Plus, importantly, you should know the reasons to safeguard your own interest. That means why the client has left, why the auditor has left. Is there any particular reason? You should inquire that. You should ask him so that you can safeguard your own interest, right? No. Reasons to not accept the audit. When can you not accept? Non-compliance of section 139, 140, 142 and 141 of Companies Act. These are the sections relating to appointment of auditor, okay, disqualification, qualification of auditors, etc. So when remuneration of auditor, okay, when these provisions are not followed, then you need not accept. Non-payment of undisputed audit fees. If the client did not pay the undisputed audit fee, then also you should not accept the audit. Undisputed means where both the client and the auditor has agreed something in writing. Okay, this is the audit fee. That is known as undisputed audit fee. When the client is not paying also, you did not accept it. If you accept, then it will be a case of professional misconduct. Okay. Undercutting of fee, reducing your fee. Qualified report. If the previous auditor has given a qualified report, then can you accept now? Yes, you can accept. Okay. A qualified report does not mean that you should not accept. You can accept. But you should inquire the reasons why a qualified report is given before you join the audit. So you should first communicate to him in writing. Now, how to communicate? By writing, okay. But certificate of posting. Certificate of posting means you have posted some letter and you have taken some certificate from the postal authority that I have posted the letter. That is not a sufficient, for this clause. What is sufficient? A registered acknowledgement due. That means you have posted in the post that has reached the auditor. He will sign that. That is known as registered acknowledgement due. He acknowledges the receipt of the document. That can be called as a sufficient for this clause. Okay. Applicable to all types of audit. This clause will be applicable to statutory audit, tax audit, internal audit, etc. Every audit. In some cases, there won't be time You can't wait for the response of the previous auditor. Sometimes there won't be any time. Then what should you do? If no time, you can give conditional acceptance. Conditional means if the previous auditor gives me satisfactory report, I will give you final acceptance. But if I don't receive, then I will resign from the audit. That is conditional acceptance. After reply, you can go for final acceptance. Okay, this is clause 8. Now clause 9 accepts his appointment as an auditor without first ascertaining whether the requirements of section 139, 140, 142 and 141 of Companies Act 2013 duly complied or not. First, as we discussed, 139, 140, 142, 141. That is relating to appointment of auditor, disqualifications and remuneration, etc. Other work performed by auditors, whatever it is, you should first ascertain these four sections whether they are duly complied or not. How to ascertain? By verifying the records of regarding compliance of law. For example, you are appointed as an auditor. How to check the compliance? You will be appointed in a AGM, right? In annual general meeting, you will be appointed. So you go and check the minutes of the AGM regarding your appointment, whether it is valid or not. Okay. But before checking the compliance of these sections, you should not accept the assignment. Otherwise, you will be deemed to be professional misconduct as per clause 9. Okay. Now we will go to clause 10. Charges or offers to charge or accepts or offers to accept professional fees based on a percentage of profits contingent upon findings. That means you have taken an audit, okay, but the fees have not decided before the audit. You are saying that my fees will be contingent, that is conditional upon findings. So if I find some misstatements, my fees will be this. If I don't find, my fees will be this. Okay, or on a percentage of profits. If the profit is 10 crores, I will be getting 5%. Okay, like that. You are not fixing a certain amount, or you are going for percentage of profits or contingent upon findings, except as permitted under any regulations. If permitted, you can go, but if not permitted, you should not do these things. Then you will be guilty of professional misconduct. What is permitted? Exceptions. Fees of liquidator or receiver. Generally, the fees will be based on assets realized. Okay, that is exception. Here you can go. Cooperative societies. There also you can take on percentage basis. Value of property. Okay, cost optimization. Any other service or audit as decided by the council. In these areas, you can go for percentage based also. Okay, why? Because it is unethical and affect on independence. If you are going on a percentage basis, your independence is highly affected because suppose you are going on 5% on profits. As the profits are high, your fees also will be high. So you will try to have as much higher profits as possible. Okay, that is the reason. So this is clause 10. Now going to clause 11. A CA in practice will be deemed to be professionally misconduct if he engages in any business or occupation other than a profession of CA unless permitted by council. See, you have taken membership. You are doing a job as you are doing practice as a CA. Then why are you having other profession? Why are you doing other business? You can do, but what is the reason? Okay, director. Can he be director in another company? Yes, he can be director, but he cannot be MD or whole-time director. Why? Dignity and unfair advantage. See, as a CA, you should be maintaining some dignity. You should not doing all the businesses which are of uh, very undignified in manner because it will affect your reputation as a chartered accountant also. And unfair advantage because, for example, you are very popular in that business, then people will be knowing you as a CA also. Then you will be getting unfair advantage compared to people who are not doing that businesses. Okay, So this is the reason this clause is introduced. Now there are two types of permissions: general and specific permission. General permission means the council has generally allowed these professions. Okay, for example, tutorship or a teacher of CA, faculties of CA, they can simultaneously practice and they can do teaching also. For that, there is no specific permission required. It is general permission. However, specific permission, that means prior approval needed for some businesses. You should first take the approval, then only you can practice. Otherwise, you will be deemed to be professionally misconduct. Now, coming to the last clause, clause 12 allows any person not being a member in practice or member not being his partner. Okay, he should be in practice and he should be a partner to sign on his behalf or firm's behalf. See, when you are auditing the work, you are doing the work, you should be signing it. You should not allow any other people to sign. Okay, but you can allow a person who is a member in practice and he is your partner. Okay, on your firm name or your own name, on balance sheet, P&L or financial statements. Only these three: balance sheet, P&L or financial statements. Who can sign? CA himself plus his partner. These both can sign. However, routine documents. For routine documents, this clause won't be applicable. What is routine documents? Where there is no professional opinion involved or where there is no authentication involved. In these cases, anyone can sign. For example, vouchers. A paid assistant, or an article student can also vouch the documents and he can sign on the vouchers also. Bills, receipts, routine matters in tax practices, hearings, correspondence with clients. Okay, in these cases, anyone can sign. Okay, this is clause 12. So we have completed all the 12 clauses of first schedule. We have completed part 1. Now this is part 2. This is applicable for members in service. Service means they're in employment or a job. They are doing some job. Clause 1. Member of the institute. Other than a member in practice. Because we have already covered members in practice. So this is only for members in service. Shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he, being an employee of any company, firm or a person, pays or allows or agrees to pay directly or indirectly to any person any share in the emoluments of the employment undertaken. For example, you are a CA, you have joined in a job. Now you are going into agreement with a person that every month I will share 20% of my salary to you. So those agreements are not allowed if you are a CA and a member in employment. Okay. In the same way, when you are not paying, you should also not receive. So clause 2 it opposes receiving. Accepts or agrees to accept any part of the fees, profits or gains from a lawyer, CA or a broker engaged by such company, firm or person by way of commission or gratification. So you should not give any commission and you should not take any commission as a member in employment. Okay. These are the two clauses in part 2. Now part 3 is for members generally. So this is applicable for both practice people and employment people. Clause 1. A member of the institute, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he, not being a fellow of the institute, acts as a fellow of the institute. We have seen FCA and ACA, right? One who is ACA for 5 years will be known as FCA. So here, a member of the institute, he is not FCA, but he is representing himself as FCA. Then he will be guilty of clause 1. Clause 2. Does not supply the information called for or does not comply with the requirements asked for by the institute